Transformed, not conformed. This is our 2-minute weekly message preview at the non-denominational New Hope Olympia. The message's subtitle is, Jacob Takes on an Angel. Guess who won the match? Gladys Dunn was new in town and decided to visit the church nearest to her new apartment. She enjoyed the pretty sanctuary and the singing by the congregation, but the sermon went on and on. Worse, it wasn't exciting. Glancing around, she saw many in the congregation nodding off. Finally, it was over. After the service, she turned to a sleepy-looking gentleman beside her, extended her hand, and said, "I'm Gladys Dunn." Thinking she said, "I'm glad he's done," the man replied, "You and me both." Have you ever been asked this question, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Even though change isn't embraced well, especially at church, most of us are interested in change. More importantly, God is interested in change. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." A life that is never transformed is a great tragedy. It's a wasted life. Transformation is a necessary part of spiritual maturity, and we need transformation if we continue growing in our walk with the Lord. Usually, the transformation that most people experience is short-lived. We may be different for a while, but it doesn't permanently affect us. That's because instead of working on our true motives, what's on the inside, we try to change the exterior, our outside behavior. But any lasting change must begin on the inside, which is God's work. In our passage this morning, we're going to look at the process God often uses in helping us to become the kind of people He wants us to be. The passage I'm talking about involves a guy named Jacob, and his situation recorded for us in Genesis 32 was a turning point for him. This is truly an encouraging message, a message that says we don't have to stay in the valley. God will help us transform to overcome that weakness in our life. Smackdown takes place in the Bible. In this passage, we find Jacob alone at night, wrestling with God until sunrise. You might wonder, what does a wrestling match that happened several thousand years ago have to do with transforming me today? You have to be willing to allow God to do it. Some essential insights here clearly define the 4 steps required for transformation. In his weekend message, Pastor Dell gives us 3 principles we learn from this smackdown wrestling match Jacob had with the angel. Then he concludes his message with 4 practical lessons we can apply to our lives from this smackdown wrestling match found in Genesis chapter 32.